Y'all, it has happened. Apple announced that they will be adopting RCS for iPhones. Now, this happened in November, and my first reaction was pure excitement. But that excitement swiftly turned to disappointment, and here's why. TLDR on these terms, in case you didn't see my RCS versus iMessaging video from August, iMessaging is a protocol and app that Apple preloads on their iPhones for messaging. It allows conversations between iPhone users to get high-resolution photos and videos, fancy emoji replies, easy to set up group texts, and strong end-to-end encryption. All of these are good things. Google also has a messaging protocol built into their app and running RCS, or Rich Communication Service. Now, RCS is an open protocol. It's called the Universal Profile of RCS, which any company can use, and Google took Universal Profile RCS and they made it just a little bit better with their own version that they built into Google Messages, which is the app that comes preloaded on Android phones. Now, Google Messages lets anybody else with Google Messages installed get end-to-end encryption, as well as all the fancy bells and whistles like high-resolution photos and videos, easy group creation, and fun reactions and customizations. All of those sound pretty similar to iMessages. But since they use different protocols, that's why your photos from your iPhone look like potatoes when you send them to somebody on an Android phone, and vice versa. This is also why you don't get end-to-end encryption if you have Android friends and you're currently using an iPhone, which is a big problem for privacy nerds. It's also why if you are on iPhone, your Android friends have green bubbles when they send you messages over to your iMessages. Now, you and your friends can get around all of those issues by all downloading the same app no matter what you are using. You could all switch to Signal, or you could all switch to WhatsApp, etc. But for the well over 50% of my audience that lives here in the United States, not a lot of people download third-party apps for texting. Trust me, I know. It's so hard. It's like pulling teeth to get anybody to use Signal. But this is extremely common for everybody overseas. So our friends in Europe and Asia don't really experience this problem that we do, but we do experience that problem here. It's incredibly tough to get friends and family to switch over to a third-party app for messaging, since they would also have to get all of their friends to do that too, unless they want to go back and forth between a few different apps. And that's a thing that a lot of people have to experience, and it can get kind of complicated. And here in the US, culturally, we just use what's preloaded on our phones and we never switch. Although, to be honest, I used Signal for most of my adult life. Now, I won't go into the politics of why Apple gives you green bubbles. I talked about that back in August, but Apple has consistently said that they will not implement RCS. But now that Apple has backtracked back in November, saying that they will bring RCS to iMessaging in 2024, we need to have an updated chat. And thanks to today's sponsor, I'm able to bring this chat to you. But I have a question first. Have you ever Googled yourself just to see what pops up? I know a lot of people have. It's one of the quickest ways that you can find personal information, and it is just shocking how much data is just completely exposed to anybody to find. I have Googled the full names of loved ones just to prove a point about how little privacy we have online. Even the most security conscious of us can have our data stolen, or a website might get hacked and your profile details are leaked online, and that's when data broker websites swoop in and they post our data on their sites, or they just buy it and they sell it for profit, completely without our consent. Those data broker sites are a treasure trove for malicious actors or just like weird stalkers looking to steal your information. Data like your home address, your legal name, phone number, email address, and a lot more. And it's the kind of information that somebody could use to actually steal your identity. Lucky for us, Delete Me removes some of that stress by removing that data from those websites for you. I like to call them my online privacy assistant because they have saved me countless hours ever since I became a paying customer long before they were sponsoring my channel. I signed up, I told them what information to look for, and Delete Me continuously crawls the internet for my personal information, and they send removal requests to those data brokers for me. I don't have to lift a finger. I get a quarterly report showing me where they found my data and how it's being removed and how long it'll take, and I can add my family members to my account so they also get the same protection. I'm a huge advocate for data privacy online, and Delete Me is a steal compared to the cost and the stress involved with identity theft, especially since they keep adding new data brokers. They just added some new data brokers to my most recent report, and they keep on adding new data brokers to their searches while keeping those prices low. And lucky for us, I have a deal. It's a very special deal just for my viewers. You can get 20% off with the coupon code SNUBS, that's SNUBS, automatically applied at checkout, and that's for any of their consumer plans. Just go over to joindeleteme.com/Morse code to get started and stop those data brokers in their tracks. That's joindeleteme.com/Morse code with the coupon code SNUBS for 20% off. What is SNUBS? That's my online handle, and thank you so much to Delete Me for sponsoring my channel and for keeping my viewers safe online. Now, according to reports, iMessage will get RCS Universal Profile later this year. This is the standard published by the GSM Association, not Google's version for Google Messages. So in theory, that means that iPhone and Android users will get things like read receipts, typing indicators, emoji reactions, high-quality video and photos, no more potatoes, and more cross-platform between the two. And RCS will work over mobile data or Wi-Fi. Now, according to 9to5Mac, RCS will exist separately from iMessages when available, and SMS and MMS will exist as a fallback whenever needed. So, since Apple is going to support the Universal Profile, that is the version that does not come with end-to-end encryption at time of recording. Apple still expects people to continue to use iMessage and has stated that this is the best option still for privacy and security for their users. Now, when this news was originally announced, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I was like, oh my gosh, awesome. I can finally send messages to my fam on my iPhones, and I was like, yes, encryption, because I'm an Android girly. But once I read that they were supporting the version that doesn't have encryption, my response was, of course. Of course. Why? Why did I think that Apple was going to make me a very joyful person for once? No, they did not. They didn't. But to be fair, Apple has also stated that they want to work with GSMA members to improve RCS, and that includes making the standard more secure. So at the time being, once this is implemented on iPhones, we'll get the nice features, yay, but no end-to-end encryption until the Universal Profile is improved to include it. And that is going to require a bunch of companies to work together to agree on the standard. So I hope that eventually the Universal Profile does indeed add end-to-end encryption so our messages are truly private no matter which app or operating system you use. But we are not there yet, even with Apple adding RCS. Now, I have a feeling that Apple is adding RCS not to be nice, but to get in front of any regulatory powers, because the EU has this legislation coming down the pipeline. It's called the Digital Markets Act, and Apple has been listed as of January 2024 as a gatekeeper under this legislation, even though they have appealed that designation, which means that they would have to offer fair competition and open up for third parties by March of this year. So for example, messaging apps will have the obligation of being interoperable with competitors. If Apple truly believes that privacy is a fundamental human right, like their website and their advertising says, then they will actually work with competitor brands and make RCS a real interoperable protocol that offers end-to-end encryption. Encryption in transit, like it currently is nice, but end-to-end encryption is the standard that these apps should live by. I suspect that my bubbles will still be green because Apple does want us all to buy iPhones. Tim Cook has said so himself, but this is a step in the right direction, even if it was brought on by international legislation. But I am glad to see the pressure is finally making changes. Now, if end-to-end encryption does eventually come to Universal Profile, which I hope it does, then that means that we should also bring Google back into this conversation. At that point, there would need to be an update update to Google Messages to also support Universal Profile instead of just Google's implementation of RCS, so that everybody using Android could get encryption with people, not just the ones using Google Messages back and forth. I think this is an open conversation. It's one that continues to need to evolve, and it's a conversation that we're going to continue to talk about as this year progresses, given that Apple has not implemented RCS yet. So we don't know what all is going to be included for sure until they actually do it. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know your comments. I would love to get your insights as well. And make sure to watch my previous video about RCS versus iMessages. Huge thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.